A week ago, the Russian Liberation Corps, the Legion of Freedom of Russia, and other units consisting of Russians ready to fight against the Putin regime, launched another wave of active actions in the border zone. And they turned out to be more extensive and prolonged than in 2023. But how far can they go, and how it is possible that Russia does not control its border? So, what and who is protecting Russia's border? Russian Federation's border with Ukraine is practically uncovered by Russian troops, paradoxical as it may sound. The border covering group consists of about 35,000 personnel and up to 1,000 reserve. In total, this entire mass can be estimated as 45 battalion tactical groups, for example. The border covering groups is divided into three troop groups: Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod. Belgorod Oblast, Kursk Oblast, and Belgorod Oblast, Kursk Oblast, and Bryansk Oblast. Each of them is equipped differently and has a different level of combat readiness in repelling military threats. For example, the least combat ready are Kursk and Bryansk military districts. Bryansk, Kursk. While the Belgorod district has the largest personnel, about 17.5 thousand people, and the best equipment with over 100 tanks, 350 armored combat vehicles, and over 450 artillery systems. But still, this is not enough to control the border section stretching from over 750 kilometers. So roughly from here to here, this is the border of, here is Belarus already, here it is still Russia. So you can see that we have this long, very curvy border. Right now, these Russian volunteer groups are operating roughly at this stretch of the front line. So it is at as a broad flight is 300 kilometers. So to hold the border, which can confidently be called the front line, stretching over 750 kilometers, 45 under-equipped BTGs are completely not enough. Because each of them in this case has a frontage of about 16 kilometers, and it is 4 times more than for full-fledged, fully equipped, fully manned standard battle tactical group. So it is absolutely impossible for these under-strength, under-equipped groups to hold this frontage reliably, to protect it from raiding activities. But Russia can't do anything about it because it is critically lacks resources in the combat zone in Ukraine as it is. And allocating additional 60 to 80,000 reasonably equipped personnel for a more reliable border cover, no, such luxury is something Moscow cannot afford in the current state of the military-industrial complex and mobilization system. But and this allow not our Russian volunteer raiding groups to do what they do. What we can observe along the border with Russia is by no means a march toward Moscow or even the attempt to liberate Belgorod from Putin's yoke. These actions have a specific and easily recognizable functionality: sabotage and reconnaissance groups. And if in 2023 it was a trial run, now it is a full-fledged prologue. But a prologue to what? In fact, taking advantage of insufficiently protected border and the inability of Russian forces to effectively respond to the threats in the near border zone, raiding activities create semblance of gray zones here. Gradually these gray zones will expand, stretch along the border, and engulf nearby villages. Among these can be those villages like Kozinka, Заречное Второе, Горьковская, Теткино. Although Tetkina is too large for rapid absorption, and these villages in the long run, after absorption in the gray zones, will begin to transform into a foothold beyond which the further territory of Russia will await for its turn. The most vivid example of similar systemic approach is Krynki on the left bank of Kherson region, which first turned into a gray zone, and it is now a full-fledged foothold of the defense forces of Ukraine. In the case of the territory of the Russian Federation, however, it would be a foothold for the Russian Liberation Corps, Legion, Freedom of Russia, and other Russians with a cool head and fire in their hearts. The ultimate goal could even be the creation of demilitarized buffer zone along the border with Ukraine and on the Russian side of the border, up to 10 kilometers deep or even more. But it is too early to talk about this because we are only witnessing the prologue, not even the first chapter of this book. So, conclusions. Russia is incapable of controlling the border with Ukraine. It simply lacks the necessary resources which are concentrated in Ukraine itself. This will allow in the near future to expand trading activities to a broader level and create gray zones along the border with Russia, gradually transforming them into footholds. Such actions will exert pressure on the command of the Russian occupying forces, which at some point will be forced to redistribute their resources from the combat zone to strengthen border covering groups. However, it is unlikely to bring success, as we already seen in the case of Krynki. Currently, the Russian command lacks the unified effective solution to the border problem, which puts it in extremely inconvenient position, both reputationally and tactically. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your attention. Слава Україні!